None for cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the term that means that you want to think one thing, but the facts are the other. So how do you rectify that breach? Right? So the facts right now are that Roy Moore, in all likelihood, credible accusations that he molested young girls. Right? That he molested a 14-year-old girl, that he molested a 16-year-old girl, that he had a habit of hanging out at the food court and dating younger women. When I say dating, you can't really date a 16-year-old when you're 33, which is what Roy Moore is accused of doing. There's one story where he legitimately called a girl out of her trigonometry class. He called the high school and said, is whatever her name was, Betsy here. They called her out of her class to get on the phone because he was the DA. And he said, what are you up to right now? And she said, trig. Okay, like, the evidence is pretty solid against Roy Moore here, or at least as solid as it can be without there actually being a court case. So here's what Republicans could do. What Republicans could do is they could be honest. I would disagree with this argument, but it would be an honest argument. They could say, listen, I think Roy Moore probably did it, but we have to stop the Democrats. The agenda is just too important. We have to stop them, right? As President Trump said during the last election cycle, we have no choice, right? You just do that. You just say, we have no choice. Roy Moore's the only guy on the ballot. We'll deal with him later. He's only going to be in the Senate for 4 years or 2 years or however long the remainder of this term is. So whatever. You know, you put him in. Maybe you expel him from the Senate, but we need that seat to remain Republican. What you don't do is build Roy Moore up as some wonderful halcyon of morality. But that is what the right has done because we cannot stand cognitive dissonance. We just cannot. Okay, there was even more evidence that came out yesterday. So here is some of the evidence. So I want to show you, there's a woman who came out and she showed that she had a note in her graduation yearbook. He dated her when she was 17 and he was 34. And there's a note in her yearbook. It says, happy graduation, Debbie. I wanted to give you this card myself. I know that you'll be a success in anything you do. Signed, Roy. Why is this important? It's only important because the signature is precisely the same as the signature in the yearbook for the accuser who said that he tried to rape her when she was 16 years old. Now, there are a bunch of people online who are saying this is a forgery too. It's all a forgery. Everything's a forgery. Okay, if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. And I have a hard time believing that you think that Al Franken is guilty or Harvey Weinstein is guilty or Bill Clinton is guilty of Juanita Broaddrick. There's more evidence about Roy Moore here than there was about Juanita Broaddrick. And all the right believes Juanita Broaddrick, and most of the right does not believe the accusers in the Roy Moore case. That's because people cannot stand cognitive dissonance. And now the RNC has jumped in. So this was totally unnecessary. Roy Moore was probably going to win anyway. Even if you wanted him to win, Roy Moore was probably going to win anyway. So they made the worst move possible. So the RNC withdrew its support last month, right, in light of the ongoing accusations. And now Breitbart, of course, gets the note from the RNC that they now, quote, stand with the president and that they are going to openly back Roy Moore in this election cycle. And as we say, the president apparently called up Roy Moore's office and he said, go get him, Roy. I only hope that he specified who the was in that sentence because otherwise that's super awkward. Go get him is not something you want to say to a prospective child molester. In any case, the RNC came out, and now they are saying that they are backing Trump's decision to endorse Moore. They're not the only ones. Orrin Hatch came out. He said Trump had no choice but to support Moore. Now, if you want to make the case, again, that you have to support him to stop the Democrats because of the polarization, because Nancy Pelosi is a kook, because the Democrats have gone so far off the road that we just have to oppose them no matter what. If that's the case you want to make, then make that case. Okay, have the courage of your convictions and just say, yeah, the guy's guilty. I don't care. The Democrats are just as bad. Fine. Voila. Right? Just do that. Do that. Be honest. But that's not what people are doing. People are finding ways to loop themselves in pretzels to pretend that Roy Moore is actually an indicator of how great evangelical Christians are. He should be. He's the new Jesus, and the pilots out there are trying to crucify him. It's just insane. It's just insane. And if anybody says differently, then they're raked over the coals. So Mitt Romney blasts Moore, right? Mitt Romney comes out with this tweet. He tweets, Roy Moore in the U.S. Senate would be a stain on the GOP and on the nation. I agree. I agree, because I have a thing called long-term interests. I don't think it's good for the long-term interests of the Republican Party to have an credibly accused child molester sitting in the United States Senate being used as a club to beat every Republican into submission. You think Trump was a club used to beat Republicans into submission in 2016? Okay, wait till they actually have a credibly accused child molester in the United States Senate, and you're a guy who's running for a contested seat in a contested purple state, like Virginia or Ohio or Florida, and suddenly they ask you, do you think Roy Moore should sit in the Senate? No matter how you answer, it's in a campaign ad. So here's what Romney tweeted. He said, Leigh Korfman, who is the woman who said that he attempted to sexually molest her when she was 14, and other victims are courageous heroes. No vote, no majority is worth losing our honor, our integrity. Now, that last sentence is the one that you might want to argue with, right? No vote, no majority is worth losing our honor, our integrity. As I say before, I had a long conversation with my friend David Limbaugh the other day. He takes the opposite side of this argument from me on Roy Moore. And what he says is that's not true, right? There are majorities, there are votes that we have to lose our honor for, right? If it requires us to side with a bad guy in order to prevent 1 million abortions from occurring a year, then maybe you side with the bad guy. Now, I don't think that's the case with Roy Moore. I don't think Roy Moore, I still have not heard the credible case that Roy Moore is going to be the vote that eliminates Roe v. Wade. I really have not heard the case, a specific case, that Roy Moore is going to be the deciding vote on the Supreme Court, right? They still have 51 votes in the United States Senate, and it's likely they'll pick up a couple of more here. But if you want to make that case, right? That's the sentence to argue with. No vote, no majority is worth losing our honor, our integrity. But people are getting upset about this. They're saying there's no loss of honor or integrity to backing a child molester. So Roy Moore responded in exactly kind. Here's how Roy Moore responded to Mitt Romney. And I do get the feeling there are a number of Republicans who, whenever you say a thing like, you are compromising your morality to support a child molester, they can't stand the cognitive dissonance. They can't say, you know what, you're right. It is a compromise of my morality. But you would also be making a compromise of your morality to sacrifice a Senate seat to a guy who supports abortion till birth. Right? And then we can decide who's compromising their morality more and what the costs and benefits are. And that's an honest conversation. That's a conversation we could have when we both acknowledge that morality is being compromised. But people on the Judge Roy Moore side refuse to acknowledge this compromise in morality. So Moore writes back, either Mitt Romney has lost his courage or he doesn't care about truth anymore. Sad day. Has lost his courage? Doesn't care about truth? Judge Roy Moore changed his story again this morning. Again. He came out and he now says he doesn't know any of the accusers. He admitted before he knew some of the accusers. Then one of the accusers came forward and said, well, by the way, here's a note in my graduation book from Roy Moore. He says, well, I don't know her. I guess it's a forgery. And then he says, America's reawakening was led by real Donald Trump, not you, Mitt. Hashtag defeat the elite. Hashtag drain the swamp. Now, I love this appeal to Trump, right? The appeal to Trump is the idea that you have to embrace all that is bad about Donald Trump in order to embrace the policies of Donald Trump, or to embrace the fact that there are Republicans who are willing to fight back. I've always said that I like that Trump is willing to punch back. My problem is that sometimes he punches a baby, right? That's always been my problem with Trump. Sometimes he punches the bad guys, and sometimes he punches a puppy. You just don't know which it's going to be. But the idea that Mitt Romney stands up and says, let's not vote for a child molester, and Roy Moore goes, well, you're irrelevant because Trump. If I were Trump, I'd be insulted by this. If I were Trump, I would be. I mean, I don't think Trump would be because I think Trump likes praise, but the idea that America's reawakening was led by Trump, not you, Mitt, and that reawakening means vote for the child molester, even if you make the case that Trump did something Mitt didn't, which I agree, okay? Trump, again, punched back, Mitt did not. I fully agree with that. But the idea that means vote for the alleged child molester, that's dicey stuff at best. And again, the defenses that are being just trotted out here by the Moore campaign are, shall we say, garbage. Here is, to put it mildly, here's a Roy Moore spokesperson. She was on CNN this morning with Poppy Harlow. Her name is Jane Porter. This was one of the worst interviews I have ever seen on national television, and that's saying a lot. I've been here for the last year and a half. Okay, this was just, wow. Okay, play it.
Poppy, we need to make it clear that there's a group of non-accusers that have not accused the judge of any sexual misconduct or anything illegal. But when we're talking about Lee Korfman, even her own mother said that her report to the Washington Post, that her life spiraled out of control after this alleged incident. Well, actually, the court records say differently.
Okay, so she starts doubting all of the accusers. She also said here that they're basically criminals. The accusers are criminals. Not the guy accused of molesting children. The accusers are criminals. The best part of this was she let off the interview, and Poppy Harlow is pregnant. And so she said, congratulations on your pregnancy. If Doug Jones had his way, he'd abort your baby. She really let off the interview that way. Here it is.
Thank you. And by the way, congratulations on your unborn child. That's the reason why I came down as a volunteer to speak for Judge Roy Moore, because he'll stand for the rights of babies like yours in the womb, where his opponent will support killing them up until the moment of birth.
Janet, thank you for being with us, and I appreciate the congratulations.
Well, boom, right out the gate there. I mean, that's a hell of a pro-life argument. Holy crap. So, I mean, but this is the argument that's being laid out, right? Again, notice the cognitive dissonance. You like Judge Moore's position on life. I also like Judge Moore's position on life. You don't like Judge Moore taking a sexual position on 14-year-old girls. But you can't square those two things. So what you end up doing is you end up going into whatever this lady's name is, Jane Porterland, and you end up saying crazy things. So now I'm watching this online in real time, and again, you know, I see it happen on a regular basis, and it drives me up. It drives me up a freaking wall. Okay, it drives me crazy. I'll host other shows, and we're calling there possible, and the entire board of calls will be, you're getting Moore wrong. Moore's totally innocent. I want to see the evidence that Moore, like, what's your evidence? Lay it out. And the evidence that she lays out is that she says that the yearbook was forged. Yeah, that's because that's the best plan ever. I hate these conspiracy theories. I swear to God, I hate these conspiracy theories so much. You know why? Because I remember back in the last election cycle when Corey Lewandowski grabbed Michelle Fields by the arm hard enough to bruise her. And then people suggested that there was some evil conspiracy hatched by Michelle Fields and me in order to get President Trump. And what we had done is we had secretly planted Michelle Fields near President Trump so Corey Lewandowski would grab her arm and bruise it hard enough so that then we could claim abuse. And then we could claim that Corey Lewandowski should step down from the campaign. We were just that nefarious. We tempted Corey Lewandowski in our evil Jew ways. Right? Like, this is such nonsense, okay? There are 8 accusers. There are 4 accusers who have said that Roy Moore sexually treated them when they were underage. 4. They've been, every detail that they say has basically been confirmed. And we're sitting around talking about this like this is a real thing. Again, you want to have an honest argument about whether to vote for Moore? Here's the honest argument. The costs of voting for Moore outweigh the benefits, or the benefits of voting for Moore outweigh the costs. That's the only honest argument. But to pretend that you're not making any moral compromise whatsoever in voting for a credibly accused child molester, that the RNC has to sink dollars in and pretend like nothing is wrong here is just gross.